You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. Good afternoon. It is Thursday, May 9th. A Guten Chodesh. We have astonishing heat right now occurring across South Texas. These are numbers that are even surpassing what we saw yesterday. This has surpassed the forecasts as well. We have temperatures going up. They're rising by the hour, despite the fact that the dew points are also going up. It's common a lot of times when the temperatures go up in the afternoon temperatures, a lot of times what happens is the dew point drops and the temperatures rise in response to both the dew point dropping and in response to the continuation of the afternoon sun. But for the dew points to continue to go up in the afternoon with temperatures rising, especially the intense humidity that's occurring with the intense heat, is something totally remarkable. We have across South Texas, Brownsville, Texas, 1 o'clock p.m., the temperature was already triple digit. The dew point was in the upper 70s, and it was difficult to find an 80-degree dew point. In fact, there was no official station. At 1 o'clock p.m., there were no official stations from what I saw which had a dew point of 80 degrees with triple-digit heat. And we spoke about already yesterday, you couldn't find that combination. Whereas last summer, we were able to find that, but that's because it was well into the summer. But today, it's a different story, a completely different story. We have official stations from the National Weather Service, which are reporting dew points in the low 80s with temperatures in the hundreds. 102 in Brownsville with a dew point of 81 degrees as of around 2 o'clock. We're going to take a look at see what the exact time was. Another noteworthy thing to point out is that the heat is even more intense when you go down into Mexico. Mexico, as of 1 o'clock already, we had areas going into the mid-hundreds along with dew points in the 80s. The question is how accurate. When you get to dew point, you need to make sure the equipment is very official, really, and it's top equipment because it's difficult to measure the exact dew point. Here's another thing that's worth pointing out. A few other things. We have the wet bulb globe temperature, which in McAllen, Texas, has reached 94 degrees in McAllen, Texas. Here's the thing, though. The wet bulb temperature is 86 degrees, which is very high. This is something we have not been discussing, actually. There is a distinction between wet bulb globe temperature and wet bulb temperature, and that, here's the important part, the 95 degree Fahrenheit threshold, which is 35 degrees Celsius threshold for where humans can no longer survive if you're in that type of environment for longer than 6 hours. That is said regarding the wet bulb temperature, not regarding the wet bulb global temperature. The wet bulb global temperature is difficult to calculate, and that's what it feels like in the sun. So you have 94 degrees right now in McAllen, Texas, and you also have lower and mid-90s across southern portions of Texas and extreme southeast Texas. That's the wet bulb global temperatures, with wet bulb temperatures about 86 degrees. Some areas perhaps even a little bit higher than that. We have heat indices. This is really intense. Really intense. We have a 126 degree heat index right now in Brownsville, Texas. Another thing which is important to point out is that when temperatures are higher than 95, any wind will actually make it feel hotter than what it actually is. If you want to add one little detail to that, the one exception is if it's humid. If it's very humid, the temperatures have to be a little bit higher than 95 degrees before the wind starts to make it feel hotter than what it actually is. Either way, right now we're well past 95 in many of these locations which are away from the sea breeze. If you are in a location which is by the sea breeze, it's really not that much better. Corpus Christi, Texas, we have temperatures in that area in the upper 80s to low 90s with dew points in the low 80s. So we have heat indices 105 to 110 degrees around there. Some areas even more. The National Weather Service, if you want to, probably the biggest shockaroo over here, it's very hard. What the biggest shockaroo over here is that the National Weather Service has not issued any excessive heat warnings as of now. It's only heat advisories. Now, the reason they explained the reason why they're not issuing excessive heat warnings. This was said 6:30 this morning. The reason why they kept it as a heat advisory is because although there were isolated spots they thought would hit 115 degree heat index or 116. Now remember, we've passed that by big time in some areas where we're already up to 126 at an airport. At the official recording station in Brownsville, Texas, we're already up to 126 degrees for the heat index. But originally, the excessive heat warning criteria, it was really borderline, but it was only expected to hit 115 to 116 degrees for 1 hour. And the criteria is either 2 or 3 hours. So they kept it at a heat advisory. Okay, they kept it at a heat advisory, but the truth of the matter is, it looks like it's clear excessive heat warning criteria. Now, it has not been 2 hours yet with heat indices in the 120s, but it has been over an hour for some locations where the heat index has been 120 or higher. Here's another thing. This hot air and super humid air is providing fuel, very intense fuel, for a severe weather outbreak taking place in the plains. And in fact, these conditions, favorable for severe weather, have spread as far south as the Houston metropolitan area. Not the entire area, but there are parts of the Houston metropolitan area that's currently under a tornado watch. There's a tornado watch in effect for that area. And in fact, we have another portion of this country which is also under a tornado watch, and that's the southeast states, including parts of right along the Atlantic coast, north of Florida even. This is north of Georgia. You have either South Carolina, and we're going to take a look at the map in a second, but you have that area of tornado watch as well. The record heat, in fact, this is Brownsville, McAllen, Texas. Many cities have already surpassed the records. We'll take a look at that in a second as well to get more of the details. But this is something more intense than what it was yesterday. It's also higher. The humidity is higher than what was forecasted. Here's another thing that, which is a crucial thing. We have smoke. This is fire smoke. There's forest fires, or actually what they called agricultural fires. I don't know if there's a difference, but maybe there is. So this is happening in Mexico. You know, last year we had all those Canadian wildfires and the strange northeast winds bringing in heat in the Midwest. Here we're in South Texas, and we have southwest winds. Some areas are under southeast winds, but many of these areas experiencing the intense heat are under southwest winds, bringing in smoke from Mexico, which is reducing the visibility to 6 miles. 6 miles is a very common right now. It's common to see visibility without the smoke at 10 miles. That's a common number. Somehow in AccuWeather, sometimes it goes past 10 miles. But with the National Weather Service, it's common for them to report 10 miles. But with this smoke, it's been down to 6 miles for many locations this afternoon. And yesterday, we had areas which was down to 2 miles. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see yesterday, the places were really smoky. And perhaps the fact that there's less smoke today, perhaps that's the intensification of the heat, but probably not, because it really has to do with the humidity. So that's difficult to explain. Another remarkable thing is how the intense humidity is not proportionate. The temperatures are not proportioned to the humidity. What that means is, you know, we have in Southwest Texas, let's go back a step. If you go back to the Dust Bowl years in the Midwest, high temperatures were around 105, frequent many days. Let's say St. Louis, Kansas City, you have Minneapolis, temperatures in the hundreds for many days. That's because it was a dry heat. There was no humidity. When you're dealing with humid summers, temperatures drop 10 degrees with heat indices around 105. So you have highs in the mid-90s, heat index 105. It's common to notice that the heat index in the Midwest seems to be similar to what the temperature would be had there have been no humidity. Well, in Texas, it's not like that. And this is the greatest example. We have temperatures are 110, approaching 110 in the western portions of Texas. But when you move east, so the temperatures drop as the humidity comes into the situation, but temperatures drop to, let's say, 102 or 106, and the humidity goes way, way up. And the heat indices skyrocket well past the 110, well past to what it is in the western portions of Texas. So, and the National Weather Service acknowledged this in the forecast, and this is why they issued a heat advisory for only the southern and eastern portions of Texas, places where the humidity is. If you're right along the beach, you've lucked out in a little bit. There is no heat advisory if you're right along the beach, but it is extremely hot there as well. In Brownsville, Texas, it's difficult to calculate again the wet bulb global temperature, but it seems like it is 92 as of about a half hour ago. You go into McAllen, Texas, 94 degrees wet bulb global temperature. McAllen, Texas, as of 2:05 p.m., May 9th, 106 degrees Fahrenheit, dew point 74, a heat index of 119 degrees. The winds are from the north at 8 miles an hour. I'm mentioning that because we've said that a wind actually makes it feel hotter when temperatures are higher than 95. Visibility is 10 miles. No haze over there. That's, again, because winds are from the north. They're not from Mexico. When you get over to Brownsville, Texas, this is the South Padre Island International Airport. The words international airport are cut off, but that's what I remember reading. South Padre Island, there probably is two stations there because South Padre Island is on a beach. But anyways, winds are from the south there at 10 miles an hour, which is bringing down the visibility to 7 miles. The temperature, this is the mind-boggling station, 2:05 p.m. May 9th. Now remember, temperatures are probably going to continue to go up. But 2:05 p.m., 102 degrees, dew point 81 degrees, heat index 126 degrees. The heat index reached 120 degrees at 12:30 p.m. and pretty much has been in the low 120s ever since, with a couple minute gaps here and there. The visibility is down to 7 miles. Something also remarkable, many of these cities, it started to very light rain. A mist occurred in the very early morning hours, along with clouds, and the sun didn't really come out till a little bit later. That's another thing going on here. And again, it's early May, and the water temperatures, the National Weather Service reports that the water temperatures are in the low 80s along the Gulf of Mexico. Realize last year, when we had this type of heat, the water temperatures were in the upper 80s and low 90s. It was mid to late summer. Low 90s was the water temperature, so about 8 to 10 degrees warmer last year, although we also had this in June as well last year, but also it was total sunshine. Now we have total sunshine, just a little bit of smoke. Okay, now we go over to Kingsville. This is from the Brownsville National Weather Service, a naval air station. Okay, it's intense, but we're already desensitized to it. Temperature 96 at 1:56 p.m. A dew point is 78. Heat index 113. The visibility is down to 5 miles over there. They actually had the visibility drop to 1.75 miles at 6:06 a.m. Edinburgh International Airport in Texas, as of 1:35 p.m. May 9th, temperature 100 degrees, dew point 75. Heat index 115 degrees. Port Isabel. The Rio Grande Valley International Airport at Harlingen, Texas. 1:52 p.m. temperature 102, dew point 77. Heat index 119. They've already seen a heat index of 120 today, and they do have smoke, reducing visibility to 6 miles. The National Weather Service reminds us, they say, take necessary precautions against the heat to limit the risk of heat-related impacts and illnesses. Never leave children or pets in vehicles. Drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated and take frequent breaks if spending a prolonged period outside. The National Weather Service in Brownsville tells us today will be the hottest day of the week across deep South Texas, with daily record high temperatures likely to be tied or broken at Brownsville. Previous records 97 degrees set back in 1998. We're already at 102. Harlingen, Texas, 100 degrees in 1998. McAllen, Texas, 103 degrees set back in 1998. Guidance continues to indicate 850 MB temperatures will approach the warmest values of the week today, 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. And speaking of Celsius, we're just going to translate this into Celsius, the international unit, really. We have temperatures currently are 40 degrees Celsius in portions of South Texas, 39 degrees Celsius at Brownsville International Airport with a dew point of 27 degrees Celsius. This is producing a heat index, we said 126 degrees Fahrenheit, which is past 50 degrees Celsius. That's already 52 degrees Celsius. The 52 degrees Celsius. Yesterday we were saying that the maximum heat index reported was 50 degrees Celsius. Was 122 degrees. We've already surpassed that by 4 degrees as of 2 o'clock p.m. with a heat index of 52 degrees Celsius, and that was in Brownsville. Here's a city in Mexico, and this was back, unbelievable. This was the latest observation I was able to get was 11:42 a.m. Temperature was 104. The name of the city is Rancho Nuevo, R-A-N-C-H-O-N-U-E-V-O. The temperature 104, dew point 80.6 degrees. So the temperature is 40 degrees Celsius with a dew point of 27 degrees Celsius. We go down into Mexico. Hey, nothing could be hotter than this. This is so hot that, let's skip it. It can't be. Let's just skip it. Okay, next. This should also be skipped because it's so hot, but we'll just read it anyways because it looks like this might be an official station in Mexico. It looks like this might be an official station. The name of the city is Sado La Marina. 12 o'clock p.m. Temperature 109. The dew point was 81.9 degrees Fahrenheit. So we translate that into Celsius. It's about 43 degrees Celsius. That's the temperature. And the dew point, 28 degrees Celsius. I mean, that heat index is probably off the charts. I think the chart goes up to 136, 109 degrees Fahrenheit, with a dew point of 82. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. It's in the 130s, somewhere in the mid 130s. That would be the heat index. So that's when you get to conditions that hot, you really have to start questioning. The dew point would be the first thing I would question because it's just too hot. But on the other hand, we do have, let's see the elevation of this place. Well, I don't see it says there's fog. On the other hand, you know, we already in Brownsville hit a heat index of 126. So it's really intense stuff. Okay, we're going to go to the tornado watch. The current tornado watch is for portions of South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama, and then another area in Texas. Brownsville, Texas, has had heat indices of the heat warning criteria from noon onward today. The last reading was taken at 2:40 p.m. with the heat index is 126. Temperature 102, dew point 81 degrees, relative humidity 51% at a temperature of 102, a south to southeast wind at 13 miles an hour, visibility down to 7 miles. We said that the record high in McAllen was 103 in 1998. They're already past that. The current temperature in McAllen, Texas is already at 108 degrees. The heat index currently is 122 degrees, and it's been 122 for the past 30 minutes. But it's been in the upper teens to low 120s, upper 110s to low 120s since 1:20 p.m. It reached excessive heat warning criteria at 12:50 p.m. Current dew point 74 degrees. The wet bulb global temperature is, if you have to type in all these conditions to figure it out. According to this, wet bulb global temperature is 93 degrees in McAllen, Texas right now. It says May 9th to 26.2. Forecast max temp 108. Well, because that's what we're at right now, 108. The dew point currently is 74. Relative humidity 35%. The winds are 9 miles an hour. In the cloud cover, it tells us is 20%. The heat index 123. Wet bulb global temperature 93. Harlingen, Texas. Wet bulb global temperature 94 right now. Temperature 105. Dew point 78. Winds 5 miles an hour. Cloud cover 20%. Month is May, day 9, tells us. Latitude 26.2 degrees. Heat index 125. Wet bulb global temperature 94 degrees. Corpus Christi 91 degrees. Wet bulb global temperature. Down to around Brownsville. National Weather Service told us heat index 126. Wet bulb global temperature 92. And that's in the sun. Baton Rouge 86 degrees. Wet bulb global temperature. This comes from the National Weather Service. When the wet bulb global temperature is between 80 and 85, it says take at least 15 minutes of breaks each hour if working or exercising in direct sunlight. 85 to 88 degrees, take at least 30 minutes of breaks each hour if working or exercising in direct sunlight. 88 to 90 degrees, take at least 40 minutes of breaks each hour if working or exercising in direct sunlight. And if the temperature is higher than 90, wet bulb global temperature higher than 90, take at least 45-minute breaks each hour if working or exercising in direct sunlight. And it says working or exercising in direct sunlight. The episode you just heard was delivered by weather enthusiast Simcha Lefton, as is all of the episodes on Weather with Enthusiasm. You've been listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This podcast can be found on almost every platform where podcasts are available. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have a powerhouse typhoon which has developed off in the Pacific Ocean. Extreme heat continues over the desert Southwest. A big shockaroo to many of you. This is especially true in regards to what's going to be going on in Alaska. We have parts of the world that are so hot right now. Temperatures are expected to go into the low 130s. What also makes the situation absolutely spectacular over there is the enormous differences between night and day. We have a remarkable weather pattern change that's going to be taking place over the next few days. We're going from one extreme to the next extreme. Small soft hail is falling with the storm. There is the possibility that snow squalls may develop. 27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan when there's intense weather. That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.